So you've started decluttering in earnest, you have built up some momentum, but in your frenzy of flinging things, you start to worry that you will get rid of something that you will regret or something that you will need. So if you want to avoid declutterer's remorse, here are some things that you should never declutter. Let's go. Hi guys, it's Laura and I help you live a simpler, happier life. And while I feel that all is fair in love and does not spark joy, I do think there are some things that you should not declutter. Because remember, minimalism is not about getting rid of every single thing that you own. So here are some things that I think you should keep. First up then is things that you are not sure about. Now, years ago, I would have said if you do not love it, if it does not spark joy, you should get rid of it. But I have since changed my mind. I have done a 180 on that one. Nowadays, I feel like it might be more a case of having kind of unresolved emotions attached to that or unprocessed thoughts. You may just not be quite ready to get rid of it, and you may not know why. You know, on a conscious level, you may not be sure the reason that you just can't let go of it, but for some reason on a subconscious or unconscious level, you have some unfinished business with that item. Even if you can't quite put your finger on it, you're just not ready to part with it. So I would say set that aside for now and then come back and revisit it in a month, 6 months, however long down the line, because it may just be a case of you having to kind of work through some issues or work through some thoughts or work through some emotions before you are finally ready to let go of that item. I feel like if you were to kind of force that issue and get rid of it, you may regret it and you may kind of have to deal with a lot of other emotions then that come like rushing to the surface. Anytime I have felt a reluctance to let go of something, even if I'm not sure why, I will give myself permission to keep that item. And I think that very often just giving myself that permission actually kind of releases a burden from me. Very often it's just like a separation anxiety. For some reason, you dread being separated from that thing. But as soon as you say to yourself, you know what, I don't have to be separated from it. I don't have to force this issue. That can give you the peace of mind and the comfort of knowing that, hey, it's okay. Sometimes, like I said, that will be enough for you to make your peace with it and let it go. But sometimes it's not, and you just need to hang on to it that little bit longer. If it's causing you some friction and anxiety and stress, even if you're not sure why, it may be best to hang on to it just for now. But like I said, do revisit it. Try and resolve any kind of conflict or unresolved emotions around it. If you can, try and get to the root of the problem, like why you're not ready to let it go, and hopefully in time then you will have resolved all of those issues and you will have made your peace with it. This next one is a mistake that I myself made recently and I feel terrible about it because it's something that I have been preaching about for years and I kind of didn't follow my own advice on this occasion. Lived to regret it, but that is, do not get rid of somebody else's stuff without their express permission. I will say I think I have been really good about this over the years, but recently, so my daughter turned 8 in April. A few months ago, she got lots of gifts from friends, family, neighbors, etc. And we had kind of a bag of some gifts that she had looked at and had appreciated, but they kind of ended up in a corner. And as the months have gone on, like it was 4 months later and that stuff hadn't been touched. And I thought that she had completely forgot about it. I thought that she wouldn't even notice that the stuff was gone, but more fool me, she noticed they were in the donation box and she got upset. Genuinely, I never thought that she would even remember that she had got that stuff because she had received so much, but yeah, no. I know how easy it is to think that, you know, this is rubbish, you know, this is not something that somebody should hang on to. It's, you know, it's so easy to assume that something is clutter when it belongs to somebody else, but you can never understand the attachment that somebody has to something. I know for myself, I have attachments to kind of silly things that other people would think are rubbish or old or worn or, you know, like outdated or, you know, maybe that I'm not using on a very regular basis, but there is a reason I'm holding on to that stuff. And it's the same for other people. And my light just went out. Okay, one moment please while I fix that. Okay, we're back in business. That one has been giving me grief for a while now. But anyway, I'm very good at doing this with my husband's stuff. I don't think I have ever got rid of anything belonging to my husband without his express permission. But for my daughter, because she's so young, I foolishly made the mistake of thinking she wouldn't notice. It's just not worth it. Trust me. And listen, I know how frustrating it can be to live with someone who has what you would consider a lot of clutter and someone who is reluctant to let go of a lot of stuff. Something that's definitely helped me, and hopefully it will help you too, is to have kind of a designated spot for stuff, as in give each person their own space, their own room, their own desk or whatever. So me and my husband both have home offices. They're both down in the basement, but his home office is his space. He can clutter it up or decorate it however he chooses, and I don't have any say in that. I don't go in there, or certainly not on a very regular basis, and I just try and turn a blind eye to that stuff. And then likewise, I have my home office that is where I decorate how I wish. He does not like how I have decorated it because it's just not his taste. But we each have our own individual spaces that we can use to store our own stuff. And that definitely makes a difference. It's where we each feel that we can be ourselves and kind of decorate as we please and have as much or as little clutter as we would like, without the other person kind of impinging on that, or like feeling that we have to make some sacrifices or compromises. Now, we do obviously have to do that in more communal areas like the kitchen, etc. But we each have our own individual spaces where we can do as we please, essentially, as long as it is hygienic and safe. The rest is open for discussion. And it doesn't have to be a massive space. Like I said, even just a desk or a drawer or a closet or a cupboard or something, if they have one space that they feel is their own, that can make it much, much easier to live with someone whose level of clutter is not kind of where your level of clutter is, or where you would like their level of clutter to be. But never get rid of someone else's stuff. Never declutter, never donate someone else's stuff without their express consent. Ooh, next one then, another lesson I have learned the hard way. Never declutter something when you are in a negative mood, when you're feeling angry, frustrated, annoyed, maybe you're feeling guilty, maybe you're feeling some shame about something. Never declutter something that has that kind of negative emotion attached to it in the moment. There is a much larger chance of that leading to regrets. Now, you can certainly make the decision to declutter stuff while you are feeling angry or frustrated. Sometimes a good rage purge is great, and it will help you get rid of a lot of stuff, as in make the decision to like separate a lot of stuff, but don't actually get that out of your home until you are feeling a little bit more calm, a little bit more objective. Right after my daughter was born, the very first outfit that she wore after she was born, my husband washed it, but he does not understand the concept of keeping things separate, you know, dark colors and light colors. So it got ruined in the wash, and it came out this like horrible gray sludgy color, and I was so upset and frustrated at the time that I actually ended up getting rid of that outfit. And I do feel kind of pangs of regret now about it, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it was an outfit. We have pictures of her wearing the outfit. What am I going to do with it except like chuck it in a box and keep it in a corner like in the basement or the attic or something? But still, because I got rid of it kind of when I was feeling extra emotional about it, it didn't give me proper time to process it and to kind of make my peace with it and to make a more objective, balanced decision on whether or not I was ready to let go of it or whether I still wanted to keep it. So if you are feeling particularly ruthless, or you're just having a day where you're not feeling like yourself, you can certainly, like I said, make the decision to declutter something, maybe separate some piles, but do not get that stuff out of your home until you have had a few days to kind of think about it, give it some deep consideration, and then once you're feeling a little bit better, once you're feeling like your old self again, then if you still want to get rid of the stuff, you can. But things done in a fit of anger or frustration rarely lead to good outcomes. Similar to that then, I'd also say don't get rid of something if you have had a recent negative experience with it, but your overall experience is a good one. So let me give you an example. I got rid of a pair of wedge sandals because the previous time I had worn them, they had hurt my feet. But looking back now, I realized that that was because I had worn them all day long across like various different terrains and stuff. It was our last day on holiday and we had done a lot of walking, and then we had walked through airports, etc. By the time I got home, I was absolutely exhausted and my feet hurt. And when I looked at those sandals afterwards, I thought, no, I'm never going to wear those again because they hurt my feet. But after I got rid of them, I realized how many times before that I had worn them and loved them. And that is something that I do regret getting rid of, because I did love those sandals. And every time I try on an outfit now, I'm like, oh, these sandals would work so well with this outfit. So yeah, it was that kind of one most recent experience that I had that had clouded my judgment. So I will say that if you are looking at an item and you're thinking, oh, you know, this has really frustrated me recently, take a little bit of a step back, take a bit of a deep breath and think to yourself, okay, recently I had a frustrating experience, but overall, does this item serve me? Try and detach yourself from a recent negative experience and look at the experience as a whole. Next one may be an obvious one, but I want to go a little bit more in depth with it, maybe give you a little bit of extra food for thought, but that is not to get rid of anything that you would need for legal reasons. So tax stuff, contracts, anything like that, you know, ID, passports, birth certs, marriage certs, etc. Always get advice on that sort of stuff if you're really not sure. I know for different countries you need to hold on to your tax documents for different amounts of time. So if you're not sure, look it up or ask somebody to make sure that you are, you know, not getting rid of something before you should. If you're not sure about it, find out. But the thing I want to add on to this, do not keep papers and statements and stuff just in case you get sued someday, or just in case you get divorced or something like that. I think there are so many papers that can be replaced if you did need them. You know, if something were to happen down the line and you needed to produce a bank statement or something, you can get it. In some places, yes, it can cost you some money to get that stuff, but I would rather free up all of that space. I would rather not be kind of surrounded by years and decades worth of bank statements on the off chance that maybe down the road I might need them when they are replaceable. So if you are keeping things for legal reasons, make sure they are actual legal reasons and not just in case legal reasons. Okay, let's talk about another mistake I have made more than once. But do not declutter a box or a pile of stuff if you're not sure what is in that box or that pile. I know sometimes it's easy to say, you know, if you're not sure what's in a box, if you haven't unpacked it since your last move, and I have given this advice myself and I apologize, it's easy to say, you know, don't look in it, just get rid of it. I don't think that's the best thing to do. And I know from personal experience, because I have lost certain kind of valuable or meaningful things by following this approach. One of those was my driver's license. Years ago, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm reasonably certain that I had used it as a bookmark while I was flicking through a catalogue. And then ages later, forgetting it was in there, I tossed the catalogue along with a whole pile of other catalogues and magazines and stuff. I recycled them, and then lo and behold, could not find my driver's license. I'm pretty sure that's what happened to it. But another time, I had received this letter that was really meaningful to me, and it got lost. I could not find it, and I'm pretty certain that it ended up in just a pile of junk papers that I also recycled. I felt really bad about it at the time because it was, like I said, a letter that was very meaningful to me, but shortly after, the person who wrote it passed away, so it was even more meaningful to me, and I felt even worse then that I had decluttered it so kind of readily or recklessly that I hadn't taken care of it. I would say the only exception to this is if you go kind of on a decluttering spree and there's some things that you're not sure about, you're not really sure if you're going to use them, and you set those ones aside and you know what they are, you know, you box them up and you slide them out of the way, and you give yourself a deadline, like if I do not fit back into these clothes in 6 months time, or if I do not use these kitchen gadgets in the next 2 months, then I'm going to donate them. I think that's okay to do. But I think if you've got a box sitting there or you've got a pile of things sitting there and you're not 100% sure what is in that stack, I wouldn't just blindly get rid of it. I would say that losing important things like my driver's license, like that important letter, was one of the biggest reasons that I started taking decluttering seriously and started, you know, thinking about clutter in a new way, because I realized that in all of my stuff, I was losing things that were valuable to me. And I couldn't just go flinging things left, right, and center, which is what I had been doing, you know, letting it build up to a bad stage and then just getting rid of, you know, like I mentioned previously, that rage purge, just getting rid of lots of stuff, throwing it out, because that was not kind of the essence of decluttering. For me, it wasn't about making space for the important things. It was just about making any sort of space at all. But in that process, I got really reckless and lost things that were important to me. So decluttering for me now is about making that space, and it's about giving myself kind of the permission and the permission's not the right word, but it's about creating that space and making the stuff that I love more available, more accessible, and it's about keeping it in a place where I can actually treasure it and where it can be you know, enjoyed and appreciated and looked after, frankly. Another thing then you may want to reconsider decluttering is kind of old, vintage, retro stuff, or if you've got a collection of things, without first checking if they're worth something, if they're valuable. Listen, chances are they're worth nothing, but while you are looking them up, let's say you're looking on eBay or something, make sure that you're looking at the prices that they're actually selling for and not just the price that it's listed for, because sometimes we can assign a value that is based on sentimentality, that's based on how long we've had it. We think because we've had it for so long, or because it's meaningful to us, that it's worth more. We have a different kind of perceived value than what something might actually be worth. So make sure that you're looking at the selling prices, like the price it has sold for, not just what someone has offered it up as. If it's something a little bit unusual, maybe you could get it appraised. Now, don't use this as an excuse to just hang on to something indefinitely. Check the prices, get it appraised as quickly as you can, and then make a decision and do whatever you're going to do with that stuff. But don't end up kicking yourself because you got rid of all of your old toys from the 80s or your baseball card collection, only to find out that it was worth a fortune. Do your due diligence and look something up, and it may actually make it easier for you to let go of that item, either because you realize that it's not worth anything. You know, maybe you thought it was worth something and that's why you've been hanging on to it, and you realize now it's not, so it makes it easier for you to donate it. Or you see that it's actually worth a lot of money and you realize, I am actually willing to part with this for cold hard cash. I always think it's worth checking. If you're kind of unsure at all, it's worth checking something just to be sure. It doesn't take too long, and like I said, it may save you a lot of regret and heartache down the line. Nearly there now, but next up is anything with personal or sensitive information on it, particularly electronics, you know, old phones, old devices, old cameras, things like that. Make sure that you are wiping them properly before you get rid of them, and not just kind of deleting the information, because very often that can still sit in a temporary folder or in a trash can and is not actually properly cleared out until a certain amount of time has passed, or until you empty the trash can or whatever. So if you're not sure, look it up online or bring it somewhere so that someone can professionally wipe it for you. Like with the looking up the value of something, it doesn't take that much extra time and it can save you a lot of trouble down the road. Definitely worth the little bit of time investment for the peace of mind. And this is a little bit of a twist on it, but do not trash something that can or should be recycled, you know, particularly with kind of toxic things or electronics or say paint or other chemicals, things like that, don't just dump them with your regular rubbish. Any sort of toxic or flammable materials should be disposed of properly. Do it in as safe a way as possible to avoid as much damage as possible to the environment. But again, don't be dumping things. If you can, donate them, try and reuse things, try and recycle them, try and give them a new lease of life if you can. Do not just automatically throw everything in the bin. I know how tempting it can be. You know, when I do a big decluttering session, I'm exhausted afterwards and I just want that stuff out of the way, and it's easier to just throw it all in the bin instead of, you know, separating it out or bringing it to the charity shop or bringing it somewhere where it can be properly disposed of. But it is, again, worth the extra time to do the job right. I would love to know if there's something that you once considered decluttering and now you are so glad that you didn't. Let me know in the comments. Or do you think that there is something else missing from this list? Again, let me know. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for loads more decluttering tips and advice. And until next time, go raibh míle maith agaibh, agus feici mé sibh go luath. Slán!